Georgia Congressman Tom Price chairs the Republican Policy Committee, so is a key player on the Budget Committee as well, and is a member of the leadership. What are the tea leaves saying right now? Do you think that budget deal is going to get a vote, a successful upvote from the Speaker's point of view?
Hey, Andrea, thanks so much. Good to be with you. I think it will. It's not all that we wanted, but it's all that we could get, and it certainly is more than the other side wanted to give. So I view this as very positive. It's a change in the dynamic. It's a change in the debate to cut the spending as opposed to increase the spending in Washington. And so we look forward to a positive vote this week, and also introducing the 2012 budget, which is kind of our vision for the future.
Now, who played the best hand so far? I mean, you've got the president and the speaker both trying to appease their wings, but the president at least got Planned Parenthood and all the rest of that out, the EPA legislation, the riders out of there. The speaker got far more than he ever expected. So yeah, winners and losers. I know you're not a nonpartisan here, but just trying to take a step back.
Well, I think really we'll let historians pick winners and losers. I think that what the Speaker did really was remarkable in terms of holding the conference together and also moving forward very positively in the kinds of votes that we'll be able to get in the Senate on Obamacare up or down and on Planned Parenthood up or down, on changing the dynamic, on truly decreasing the amount of spending, and then trillions of dollars of spending cuts that we'll see with our 2012 budget that's coming forward this week. So we're going to have a very exciting week, a week that sets things right. I think in terms of the direction of the country, remarkable challenges that we have, but I think we're beginning to move things in the right direction.
Now, what do you say to people like Congresswoman Karen Bass was on with Chuck Todd earlier today? She's a former top legislator from California. Here's her objections to Paul Ryan's approach on the block grants for Medicaid. Let's watch.
If it was a block grant, let's just say it's $100, okay, that goes to the states, or $1 million. That's it. So if that had happened to California when we were in the midst of the worst recession since the Great Depression, it would have been extremely devastating. Can you imagine in the early 80s with the AIDS epidemic, if there had been a cap on Medicaid, that would have been devastating. People would have literally died.
So to the whole concept, yeah. I was just going to say, you're a physician as well, but to the concept of taking the Medicaid, the Medicaid money and making it a block grant to the states, it's a total cap. It's so irrespective of whether or not you go into a recession and more people are thrown into the poverty rolls. How do you justify that as the approach?
Well, because that's the only way, truly, that we can really save the program. California hasn't done too well under the current system, as you can clearly see. And if Representative Bass was honest, she'd admit that. In fact, what we need to do to save the program.
Budget. I mean, you could say that California was at the fulcrum of all of the cross currents facing our society, with immigration increases, with more people on welfare, with more people needing Medicaid, and as she points out, in the 80s, with the huge epidemic of AIDS.
This is exactly the kind of solution, though, that was put in place under President Clinton and a Republican Congress in the 90s for the welfare program. Block granting it to the states provides the states much greater flexibility. They can increase the kind of coverage that they want, should they so desire, but it gives them the flexibility to be able to put a program in place that allows for medical care for their indigent population, as opposed to the federal government deciding a one-size-fits-all from Washington. That doesn't work. It doesn't work in Medicaid. It doesn't work in other things. And we're going to save Medicaid by moving it to the states.
Well, let me also ask you about the debt ceiling, because Jay Carney has been briefing as we've been talking, and this is part of what he had to say about the importance of raising the debt ceiling.
The consequences of failing to raise the debt ceiling would be Armageddon-like in terms of the economy, on the impact on interest rates, on job creation, on growth would be devastating.
What is your reaction to that, and how seriously do you think the leadership, both parties, have to take this debt ceiling deadline?
Well, look, just as we didn't want to shut down the government, we're not interested in not increasing the debt limit, but we are interested in making certain that any increase in the debt limit, which you can't have the United States default on its debt, but any increase has to be accompanied by structural changes to Washington's spending habits. We need to change the inertia from spending to saving, and the way to do that is either through a balanced budget amendment or a spending cap or a 2-year budget cycle or all of the above. But we're not interested in paying for past grievances without cutting up the credit card. That's what you got to do to profligate spending. That's what we would do to our kids. It's what families do every single day to make certain that they spend just within their means. That's what the federal government must do.
And you're talking about spending now. You're not talking about social agendas.
Well, in terms of the debt ceiling, what we need to do is change the structural aspect of the budget and spending itself. There are all sorts of pressure points in these debates that we're having: the continuing resolution, the 2012 budget, the debt limit, and then we've got the appropriations bills. There's more than enough opportunity to be able to get fundamental change in policy. But in terms of the debt ceiling, I think what we need is absolute changes in the processes that we go about in terms of our budget, so we're not put in a situation where we're at this limit over and over and over and over again. Got to get things back in line so that we don't spend more than we take in.
Congressman Tom Price, always a pleasure. Thank you very much for joining us.